Hey homeschool friends, welcome back to the channel. So you guys, I do love to set yearly goals. I like to set them for both my kids as well as myself, and I do this for a number of reasons. The first reason is that it just allows me to kind of slow down and think about things. It gives me the space to kind of discover some things maybe that I wasn't noticing just because I'm taking the time to think about my individual kid. Think about the past 12 months, who they are, like what's been going on, just to have a little breathing space. I think setting goals actually makes me do that. And otherwise, I would like to say that I would do that along the way, but I just don't. So using this as kind of my time to assess has been really good. The second reason I like to make yearly goals is because it helps me with kind of like general expectations or like school standards, if you will. And I know some of you will bristle at the word standard, and that's fine. For me, what I mean is I like to have a pulse on what a fifth grader should be doing or a fourth grader should be doing, and just to make sure that I'm kind of on the right track. Now, I don't feel like I need to hold rigidly to this, or I don't think I need to like judge myself as like passing or failing, like I'm failing my child because I'm not doing these things. It's more of a tool to help me pick up a couple things that I hadn't maybe thought about, that I hadn't been like, that's probably an appropriate time to do that during the fourth grade year. So in today's video, I'm gonna share this process with you. I'm gonna share the resources I use with you. And I'm even gonna share kind of a few specific goals, but not super personal ones, but a few specific goals for like myself and my kids, and even kind of our homeschool in general for this upcoming year of 2024-2025. So hi, my name is Angie. Welcome to the channel, or welcome back. So like I said, I'm going to be talking all about yearly goals for homeschool. How do I do this? Why do I do this? I guess I kind of already talked about why. My two main reasons why, but how? How do I do this? Because I just did this yesterday, and then I thought, you know what? This might be a good thing to share, because I didn't do this initially when I started homeschooling, because we're going on my 6th year of homeschooling. And so my first couple years, I wasn't doing this, but again, my first couple years, I had like kindergarten and first grade. It feels a little different when I'm like 5th grade, like our last year of elementary school before we're going on to middle school. It feels like a better time to be more tuned in, right? And so I have found as I've gone through the years that I want this information a little bit more. And also I want the record of it. Like I want the sheets where I make notes, where I brainstorm, where I think about the goals. And that's really helpful to be able to look back on, especially at the end of the year, to see if we've accomplished those and to see how much my kids have grown. So process-wise, what do? Is I grab blank pieces of paper and try to have a bit of a calm environment and a little bit of time. That's a hard thing, I feel like, with young kids and all this stuff. Like if you could honestly take time away, like have someone watch the kids and you go to the coffee shop for a morning or something like that, that would be ideal. I wasn't able to do that, but we were just out front and the kids were playing with chalk and playing on their bikes and stuff. And I was able to take my clipboard out and a piece of paper and just brainstorm and just think about my kiddos. And I started with strengths and interests as well as weaknesses. That's kind of what I put on my piece of paper first, is I put like, what are some of the things they're interested in? Like interests probably land a little bit more with my 5th grader than my first graders. My first graders, they just love to play and do Legos and things like that. But my 5th grader, it's nice to kind of piece out like, what are the things he gravitates towards? What are the things like I thought he'd be interested in, but he's just really not? And that's totally fine. And so I'm able to kind of write down like, he really loves technology. He's really enjoyed coding. He likes taking things apart. He does not like science, like squishy science, but he likes like physics and robotics. And so it's like, those things are important to kind of make note of. And some of his strengths, I'll make note of things that are academic, as well as like maybe emotional and social and spiritual, because that just kind of makes his whole person. Yes, homeschooling is academic, but it's not totally either, because you have the ability to do character training, to do spiritual growth and development, and all of these things all wrapped into homeschool, that it's kind of fun to be able to make goals that touch upon all aspects of his person, right? And so those are the things I would make notes of. Like he has an inner drive for completion, but maybe sometimes he's a little self-critical and that leads him to overwhelm. So those are just a couple examples of things that like I would make note of for my child. And then I also make notes of some of this like academic things that he's liking or struggling with. And that's important because I think it's good to do both. You can't just focus on the weaknesses, because sometimes in light of what he's interested in pursuing, those weaknesses might not really matter. And so you just kind of make sure they have spell check and they'll be fine in life. You know what I mean? And so I make notes of those, but it's also nice to be able to take the pressure off, like I need to fix his weakness. I don't. That's not the purpose of this exercise. But then it does lead me to kind of the goals section for him. And it's like things like, what are we working on in 5th grade? And based on like what I shared in my 5th grade curriculum choices, writing and composition, this is the first year we're just trying IEW. We want to put more structure on it. And I realized that program is a big program. Like it's going to take a lot of brain space. It's going to take a lot of time. And so that's one of the goals for this year. Not so much grammar, like I talked about there, is you can't do everything every year. So in making goals, I can give kind of like a focus area for his homeschool for this year. And then I also have some chores and some spiritual things on my list. And I did that for all of my kids. And so this is kind of my brainstorm sheet. What I want to do next is set up some time with my husband to chat through some of these things, to chat through my evaluation of our kids and the situation, and even myself, and see what his kind of outside perspective can lend some wisdom into my thinking, and see if there's some additional goals we should come up with for our kids. And then I do want to this year, which I've never done, and I'm hoping this will be helpful, is to write these goals on note cards. Because yes, the process is helpful, like I said at the very beginning, but sometimes also the goals are useful to keep at like eye level so that you can keep reminding yourself, oh right, we are working on these character traits for this kiddo. We are working on developing his spiritual practices or disciplines here. And so like, that's my plan. Talk to my husband and then write it on some note cards. And that's really the first step. That's the first and major step, I feel like, for writing goals. The second thing I like to do, like I was saying, is I like to assess standards. Now, don't hear me when I'm not going to like the Colorado Department of Education and looking up all those crazy standards that don't make any sense to me. Like they're just very wordy. What I do instead is I have this resource. I have a number of other resources, but really honestly, this is the one I use the most. It is a home learning year by year. I can put a link to this down in the description because this has been so instrumental in this process. Is then I'll look up 5th grade and then it'll have all the subjects. It'll talk about some expectations for math. What do most kids learn for math in 5th grade? Like fractions and decimals, express relationships as simple ratios. You know, they'll have all that, as well as the language arts is really helpful in kind of expectations for writing and how they're able to edit their own work or write poetry, things like that. What I don't hold to too strongly is the science and history, just because I don't teach it like the public school does. Like I don't hit upon a little bit of ancient Egypt as well as westward expansion. You know, that's just not how I do those subjects, but I like to flip through those pages because eventually we will hit upon all of that stuff just at different times than say like specifically 2nd grade or something like that. The other thing I like to look at in here is it's helpful for kind of the enrichment or electives, like you're talking, what is some good things that kids are working on in 5th grade as it comes to like the internet and research and things like that. So what I saw is I was able to write down, well, I wrote down our course of study. This just helps me see what I already have planned for him. And then here in pink, which I know you can't quite see, and I'm not showing you specifically anyway, but what I did is I made notes of things that I saw in that book. Like for instance, language arts, I wrote down oral presentations and critiquing oral presentations, like watching some TED Talks and giving them the tools to assess a resource, assess like even like conduct research with resources and online, and then go through maybe find a book or something we can go through that helps them see like bias, helps them see credible resources versus not credible resources, things like that. And then some like history and geography. It was like learn the major lakes of the world, longitude, latitude, time zones, things like that. I'm like, oh, we really haven't. Just the way we approach geography with Sonlight is wonderful, but it doesn't necessarily hit upon those details. And I'm like, that's easy. I could probably teach that. So for instance, that's what I did. And I did that for all of my kids. And it's a nice touch point. It's also kind of confidence boosting for myself. And I really like that. And so I was able to do that with my kids. And then what I also did is on the back here, is I also kind of looked through kind of general homeschool goals. Like, what did I want our homeschool 2024 to look like? How was I going to run our science experiments? What are my thoughts on field trips? Are there any big field trips? Do I want to add more documentaries? So it's kind of brainstorming that, and I need to kind of actually work through that and make some tangible lists in my Notion or something like that, which is where I do a lot of my organizing for homeschool, is in Notion. I made a whole video last year I can share, but like I can make tabs and links to all those things, and I'll probably do that within the next couple weeks when I'm doing all my planning for next year. But that was kind of some good homeschool goals, as well as I even put for myself, goals for myself. What I think here, it's more like personal development. What are the things I want to do? I want to grow as an educator, right? Like, this isn't just something I'm throwing together. If I can understand education, how to teach kids well, but also like development, like adolescence, how to teach an adolescent brain and things like that. I love diving into kind of resources. So I might make a video on some of the books I'm collecting for myself, almost my like personal development stack that I want for the year, because I tend to do this every year, as I put together a list of things and a stack of books I want to get to that can help me be a better homeschooler, a better mom, a better educator, all of these things, because you know, you wear a lot of hats when you homeschool, right? And so I want all of that. I also made note of some of the seminars, like online seminars, like Sonlight puts a lot of good online seminars together. I love watching those. I love rewatching those. And these things just, I'm able to pull little nuggets from and use those in my homeschool, and I feel like it helps me. It brings us more life and just joy in our homeschool when I've kind of taken a little time to do these things. So I realize that was fairly quick, but I hope it inspires you to maybe just take a moment, take a morning, and just think about your upcoming year, think about your individual kids, think about you as an educator, and go from there. Maybe brainstorm some notes, and you'll be surprised what you come up with and how you're like, oh, I should definitely do this. This is a great idea. And so anyway, that's what I have for this video. This is my plan. This is how I set up my yearly goals. And let me know down below, because I feel like this can either be something that people love or really dislike. Like, you feel like you get put in a box, but I don't think you have to do that. I think you can do this as strict or loose as you want, but it's a very useful tool, or at least I have found it to be as I've progressed in my homeschool years. So you guys, let me know down below if you do this, how you do this, details, share with the group, because I feel like this is a good topic where we could all bring some of our wisdom and our experience to each other in the discussion down below, and it could be really rich and uplifting for all of us. So I hope you do that. But otherwise, you guys, that's what I have for this video. I hope you all are well and enjoying your summer, and I will see you in the next homeschool video. All right, guys, take care.